Hello, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of the MiLLENNIAL podcast, the internet's only podcast about Xiaomi products and kind of tech news relating to Xiaomi. Today, I want to talk about the Google Pixel 3a, but before we jump directly into that, I want to thank everyone who uses my affiliate links and supports me. It goes a long way to making this channel possible, towards making the podcast possible. Also, a lot of love to my Telegram community. You guys are great. I talk with you guys all the time. Also, before I forget, if you are watching or listening to me on a podcast app, SoundCloud, something like that, let me know your preferred podcast app, either in the comments section or in my Telegram community, so I can make sure that my podcast is available on it. Okay, let's just jump in and start talking directly about the Google Pixel 3 because I have a lot of thoughts on this device, but before I give the thoughts directly on this device, I want to talk a little bit about the American or at least Western cell phone markets, because I can't help but think that this is a device that's aimed directly at those markets. Let me explain. So, at least in America, most cell phone sales are done offline. And because of that, there is a lot of kind of uninformed cell phone buyers or people who are not tech enthusiasts who are going into cell phone shops looking to purchase new devices. Because of that, having a standout feature in a device like the camera, for instance, or stereo speakers, is something that will have a big effect when you're trying to impress an uninformed consumer that just walks into your store looking to purchase an item. And because of that, we see companies, or at least in this case, we see Google really focusing on the camera aspect of it, so that when a consumer goes to a Verizon or an AT&T or a T-Mobile store and they compare the camera on the Google Pixel 3a to whatever they have in their pocket, they have a tangible difference, or there is a tangible kind of upgrade that this person can go, oh, this is a way better device than this other device. And so kind of because of that, Google will have a really hard time selling people on the pure Android experience. Maybe for the long updates, old iPhone users that are used to getting updates on their iPhones for 2 to 3 years can be swayed over by this. But overall, Google's going to have a really hard time selling people on this device on something other than the camera. Now, we have to go ahead and take into account that most devices are between $200 and $300 upfront on contract, and then you pay the rest of that device off over the length of your contract. With something like the Google Pixel 3a, carriers can go ahead and slap like an extra $10 or $12 a month charge on your account and pretty much pay for the phone. Or they can have phones which are free up front, but you're just paying an extra $10 a month for the phone. And having a free upfront phone is going to be really appealing to American consumers. And I feel like people might buy these when they can see that, oh, for $0 up front, I can get this phone. Because right now on Verizon or on other cell phone carriers, you can get a brand new Galaxy S10e where you get buy one, get one free on contract with certain carriers, which when you are competing against devices like that as Google, you really have to try to undercut them, because outside of people buying into the brand name of Galaxy or something like that, it's kind of a hard to sell against the iPhone, right? Because the iPhone is very much a closed ecosystem, so trying to pull people out of that ecosystem is going to be difficult. So that's kind of how this device is going to be sold in the American market to consumers, because at least in the American market, Google can get away with a phone that's going to be really, really cheap on contract and just try to kind of flood stores with this device. And that's going to be, or at least in my opinion, that is the offline retail strategy that Google's going to have. Now, we have to consider that right now companies are racing to gain market share globally. Countries like China, India, Brazil, even Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines are places that are really, really quickly becoming developed. They're places where a lot of consumers are getting their first or maybe their second smartphone ever. So a lot of these sales are done offline, and to a lot of these consumers, this is a really important purchase for them, because this is going to be their primary conduit or their primary way to get to the internet where they live. And Apple is trying really, really hard to get into these markets, and Samsung is trying really hard to get into these markets. And they're competing with companies like Huawei and Xiaomi and Oppo and Vivo. And in the case of the Google Pixel 3a, I really don't see where Google ever stands a chance. And on the international market, because more people are informed, tech-savvy consumers, you have more people that know that you can change ROMs. You have people that know more about rooting, or they know that something called rooting exists. The average American consumer is way less tech savvy than most consumers I've met, even here in Vietnam. So a lot of the consumers that would be wanting that stock Google Android experience in markets like these are going to be aware of alternatives, like buying a Pocophone F1 for less money, putting the Pixel Experience ROM on that device, and having nearly an identical experience with the identical camera sensor. So I don't see why Google is selling a Google Pixel 3a with a SoC that is worse than what Xiaomi has on a $230 phone on the Redmi Note 7 Pro. Or why they're going to have less cameras, because sure, Google's one camera solution is really good, but is it better for most consumers than Xiaomi's triple camera setup? Or is it going to be a bigger selling point in physical locations to have 3 cameras versus 1 camera? I think to most less informed consumers that would be buying this, 3 cameras is better than 1, no matter how good Google's 1 camera is. And to the enthusiast consumers, I don't see what enthusiast consumer is buying a Google Pixel 3a over a OnePlus device, especially if OnePlus is going to be having a OnePlus 7 non-Pro that's going to be priced cheaper and more budget oriented. I don't see who is going to be going into that. Or I don't see who would choose a Google Pixel 3a over a Xiaomi Mi A3, which is going to have the same or better performing processor with 3 cameras at 3 unique focal lengths, with one of them having a better sensor being the IMX568, the true 48 megapixel sensor. I just don't see where that fits in. So it's almost like Google is throwing up the white flag for all of these developing markets and saying, you know what, we're not going to try to get into that market. We can't compete, so we're not going to try. Because ultimately, if Google is trying to compete in these markets, they have to compete against Nokia, and Nokia's solid Android One offerings. They have to compete against Xiaomi and Xiaomi's solid Android One stock Android offerings. They have to compete against OnePlus and OnePlus's stock Android experience. So who's going to buy a less powerful processor if the processor in their device is going to be their primary conduit to the internet and to the outside world? So in that sense, I don't see that being really I don't see it really being something that people want. Also, expandable storage. I know some companies are doing away with expandable storage. I understand that Xiaomi is making 128 gigabytes, kind of the standard de facto storage size for some of their models. Same with OnePlus. So why is Google coming to us with 64 gigabytes maximum of unexpandable storage, and then they're not even giving us unlimited full size or full resolution backup for stuff? It's like Google is saying, we are going to sell our device based on the fact that we're just Google and going to try to make it a luxury brand in countries outside of America. Or they just don't care about selling this device in countries outside of America. So what I want to get back to is talking about the market. Okay? Because in the international market, I don't see this device being successful. In the American domestic market, I see it being successful, being sold to, honestly, people in my mom and dad's range who just walk into a store. Their camera is the primary picture or the primary way they take phones. The device is from Google. Everyone uses Google for everything. But at the same time, I don't know if it's going to be able to outweigh the presence that we have from Samsung and a device like the Samsung Galaxy S10e. And to sum things up, I think that Google is trying to go after the American market. Unfortunately, by doing it and by sticking to their fundamentals and stuff that their Pixel brand is built on, they are sacrificing a device that could do really well internationally. If Xiaomi can bring us devices comparable to this at under $350, why can't Google? And don't tell me it's because Xiaomi is primarily a software and services company, because that's almost everything that Google has built their business on. So if you are excited about the Google Pixel 3a, let me know why. If you're going to buy one, let me know why. If you're not, let me know your top 3 choices for smartphones that you would rather have at the $400 price point, brand new in your country right now. Because right now, I know that in Vietnam, I can get a Pocophone F1. I can get for $400, that's about, I could probably get a Xiaomi Mi 8. I might be able to get a Mi 9 for like $420, let's say, but Xiaomi will probably cut the price on that. I can definitely get a Mi Mix 3 here in Vietnam. So let me know other devices in that price range that are similar. Let me know devices you'd want. Or would you buy 2 Redmi Note 7 Pros? Or would you buy one Redmi Note 7 Pro and put a Google Pixel experience on it? Let me know. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give this device a pass. But I really want to know what you think about it. If you think it's meant for the American market, if you think it's meant for Western markets, would it work in your market? Let me know in the comment section down below, or let me know in my Telegram community. Till next time, it's been Mitchell coming to you from Hanoi, the Mitchell Millennial Podcast. I'm signing off. Peace.